Hello and welcome to Flippin' Through the Internet's #1 Mad Magazine news, review, and interview channel. This is a little bit different of a video. This is not a Mad Magazine video. This is a Scholastic Scope video from April 2nd, 1973, and I'm pretty sure that this was free, gratis, for high school students in the United States. Now, you may have grown up with this or something similar to it, but there's a lot of periodicals that are made available to students for free. Well, for them it's free. The schools pay for it. But I bought this at my local comic shop. They got a whole bunch of Mad magazines in, including this. And so I was going through and I was pulling a bunch out. And I said, "Hey, how much for this?" And they said, "Oh, just take it." And take it I did. So Scope visits Mad Magazine. Big deal. And so here's this beautiful, I believe this is a Norman Mingo painting of Alfred E. Neuman. One of the best. It's just like the classic. If I get a tattoo of Alfred E., it's going to be this in full color. Anyway, this is in really rough shape. In fact, look at the cover. It isn't even attached. Look at Dr. Scholl's. Oh, he was still in medical school. It was just Scholl. He wasn't a doctor even yet. Back cover. You never knew how much mileage you get up. Oh, see, this is even funny. I forgot. This isn't a Mad magazine. But it's for high school kids. So they have ads that hopefully will influence them. Well, not so much the Scholl thing, but like the Navy, the Air Force. Look at that. A Gillette. Best a man can get. I walked around in the rain for hours after she said goodbye. It was sad enough having to call everything off, but did she have to be so cruel? Goodbye, Nick, she said. My name is Tom. Nick was what she called me, though. Oh. I thought it was. I'm not reading that. Actually, I'm going to read it. Poor Tom. I'm not going to read it. I've changed my mind again. Anyway, I thought this would be so cool. I haven't read through this, but I thought it'd be fun to take the time to read through. There's a lot of information and articles written about, well, a lot of books written about Mad Magazine. I have not read many articles written about Mad Magazine, but I thought this would be kind of interesting because this is from the eyes of an outsider. This is somebody who's coming in to visit and talk to them and learn about the magazine. And so I thought it would be pretty interesting to go through just to get a different type of perspective. And so I am going to zoom in case you want to pause and read it yourself or I don't know. So I'm going to try to kind of move the magazine around as I read. You walk into a tall office building in New York City. You take the elevator to the 13th floor. You step out into the hallway. Everything seems normal. Till you enter one of the offices. Rubber blimps hang from the ceiling. The walls are covered with pictures of a grinning idiot. A King Kong gorilla looks in through a window. A large rubber chicken stares at you from a corner. This place is crazy. No wonder. You are in the office of Mad Magazine. Mad is the most successful humor magazine in this country. What kinds of people put it together? What goes on behind the scenes? We'll tell you about our visit to Mad. Big deal. Right? So they're kind of picking up on some of that humor that Mad Magazine, the self-deprecating stuff. Big deal. The cast of characters. Well, first off, keep in mind a few things as you read this. This is given to a class by a teacher, and so it's not just written as an article. It's written as an article that teachers can then use to ask specific questions to, prompt students' learning. So it's not academic. It's not entertaining. It is like an informative article for students, for a learning environment. So you're going to notice things about this, perhaps, that you're like, it's very strange that they would write it in this way or that. The cast of characters. William Gaines is the publisher of Mad. He's the boss. To look at him, you'd never believe it. He has long gray hair and a messy beard. He never wears a tie, and his clothes look old and sloppy. He keeps a skull in his office. He says it's his father's. Who knows? He is unusual. Al Feldstein is the editor of Mad. He decides what goes into the magazine. Next to Gaines, Feldstein looks very straight. He says he runs the magazine by the seat of his pants. In other words, he does what he feels is right. So, like, this is what I'm kind of talking about, is like stuff where they use an idiom, by the seat of his pants, and then they sort of define it. He does what he feels is right. It's that type of thing. And then the teacher goes, well, based on that, what could you say that the term seat of your pants means? I'm like, I'm a teacher, so I'm noticing this stuff perhaps more than other people might, but, it's... Anyway, I'll stop talking and start reading again. He doesn't spend time with polls and studies. He doesn't try to find out what his readers think is funny. That's not surprising. I don't want to know, he told Scope. Then I have to worry about following rules. We print what we think is funny. Then I'd have to worry about following rules. We print what we think is funny. I'm going to kind of go back to that, maybe in another video. He and his staff must be doing something right. Mad has over 2 million readers. Jerry DeFuccio, I'm sorry, Jerry, and Nick Meglin are associate editors. They help Feldstein decide what goes into the magazine. I was going to be a doctor, Jerry said. My father was a doctor. He practiced surgery by cutting up my comic books. That made me so angry that I went into the comic book business instead of medicine. Jerry has been at Mad for 20 years. So here we have, we also have this photograph of that famous King Kong. We have the Mad Zeppelin. Now I do want to go... I have to move my keyboard over a little bit. So then they have this kind of cool spread of photographs. And so I believe these were taken by the person that visited. And these aren't just stock photos, but there's William Gaines. I mean, he's famously unkempt. I wonder who that is showing him his work. We have, look at that Mad cover art. What Mad magazine was that? There's the No that was another Mad issue cover art. Oh, I love this. I love these photos. So that's Al Feldstein. Oops, Al Feldstein. Here's another Al Feldstein with, look at these, those super specials where they did, where they reprinted some of the gags from the original Mad comics. I have that one. Maybe I have the one that's in, what is this? I'm curious about that. Can I zoom in? Enough. Enhance. Oh, that's a Don Martin pocket book. Look at me. Look at me. I have encyclopedic knowledge. And here's Jerry DeFuccio. That can't be the right way. If you can write out a, phonetically how to pronounce his name, I'd really appreciate it. Golly, sorry, guys. Nick Meglin said, I took this job thinking I wouldn't stay long. I was just out of the army. I needed a job. I wanted to draw book covers. Meanwhile, I thought, I'll work for Mad. That was 17 years ago. Jerry and Nick look normal enough, but don't let that fool you. You can't always tell when they are putting you on, but you begin to think it's almost always. For example, when Scope called Mad about this article, Jerry answered, Scope says, I'm calling from Scope Magazine. Jerry, Scope Magazine? I read it all the time. In fact, my job here is to read Scope. I was reading it when you called. They're just... I don't know. That's just what... just an asshole. But that's I love that type of humor. Just ball busting. The kid on the cover. Here we go. Maybe we'll get some answers. Probably not. John Putnam is the art director. He's in charge of how the magazine looks. He has white hair and a mustache. He wasn't sure if he should let us take his picture. We're all supposed to be young, he said. Len Brenner is the production manager. What does he do? He wouldn't tell us. I get paid once a month, was all he'd say. He makes a lot of wisecracks. Maybe he does something else, too. I'm the baby on the staff, he says. I've been here less time than anyone else. He's been at MAD for only 14 years. Alfred E. Newman. No, there is no real Alfred E. Newman shown on the cover, but his spirit is everywhere. His picture grins down at you from every wall in the MAD office. And we did talk to Norman Mingo, my man, who draws most of MAD's covers. I couldn't guess how many times I've drawn Alf, he said. He added that MAD did not invent Alf. I used to see his face when I was a kid. He was in ads and on postcards. There were ads for dentists in those days. You'd see Alf with "Me Worry" under his picture. Once MAD had to go to court to fight for Alf. A woman said her husband had invented Alf's face. She said he had drawn the face in 1914. MAD, she said, had no right to use the face. MAD won the case. If they had lost, they would have had to pay the woman several millions of dollars. That's a lot for the idiot kid, as they call him. That's very interesting. Mad Magazine has gone to court a lot. And I think I want to do some videos about their court stuff, because I think that would be very interesting. The usual gang of idiots. Mad's writers and artists are called the usual gang of idiots. They work at home or in their own offices. They bring their work in or they mail it in. They often talk with the editors over the phone. George Woodbridge, nice. One of the artists called Nick while we were there. It was a short phone call. Afterward, Nick said he screamed a bad word into the phone. Then he hung up. I wonder what he wanted. Well, that's one way to do business. So, these are the people who put out MAD. How do they do it? Are they ever serious? Al Feldstein gave us a serious answer. It's not simple putting out the magazine. We have to work very far ahead of time. This can cause problems. Last fall, we wanted to do something about the election. Of course, it had to come out before the election. Well, we work on the October issue in July, but in July, we didn't know who the candidates would be. We had an idea for the back cover. It would be a picture of the Statue of Liberty. The candidates would be in the windows of her crown, and she would be crying. So we had an artist draw 11 different people to put in the crown. We had Humphrey, Kennedy, and others. Then McGovern got it, so we sent his picture to be printed. Then McGovern changed his vice president. Luckily, we could change Eagleton to Shriver at the last minute. If McGovern had waited one more week, it would have been too late. Well, maybe it would have been funnier that way. That's like, a lot of times Mad Magazine is very topical, but politically topical is a whole nother thing, especially what they're saying with that. They're working so far ahead of time. Now, one thing to consider now is like current Mad Magazine, let's say it was printed monthly. Well, things change every single day. And it's hard to make a relevant joke because you don't know if what's happening, that whatever horrible thing is happening today will be on the minds of people, in 3 months when the magazine actually gets put out. Parodies. Mad is famous for its parodies of movies and TV shows. A parody is a copy of a story. Like, look at now, so they mention parody and then they define parody. Classic education writing. A parody is a copy of a story told in a way that pokes fun at it. On page 7, you can read the beginning of a Mad parody of TV's Columbo. So they give you the word parody, they use it in a sentence, they define it, and then they give you an example. And that's interesting to nobody. How are the parodies done? First, we decide which movie or show to do. Feldstein said, if we make fun of something, it doesn't mean we think it's bad. We just look for something we think we can make funny. Again, this is one I want to come back to. Sometimes we all go to a movie together, Nick added. I remember when we saw Love Story, everyone in the theater was crying. We were laughing. People must have thought we were crazy. but we could already see what we could do with this movie. Jerry said, sometimes things seem very funny to us that most people wouldn't notice. Take The Godfather. In the movie, Michael had to learn how to shoot a gun, but he was supposed to have been a hero in the Marines. Didn't he learn to shoot a gun then? That struck me as funny, but probably most people didn't notice it. Usually, we pick movies or shows that are big hits, Feldstein said. A parody of The Godfather will seem funnier if you've already seen the movie. First, we get one of our writers to see the movie, then we talk about it together. We try to figure out what we want to show in our parody. Then the writer goes home and writes the piece. He doesn't worry about how long it is. He doesn't worry about how it will look. That's my job. I figure out which scene should go in each box. Then I tell an artist what to draw in each box. He does pencil sketches. We look them over. We make some changes. Then he does the final drawing. Hey, here's something. Check out my interview with Dalton Vaughn, cartoonist for Mad Magazine, an idiot himself, an idiot of the usual variety, very nice guy. But he talked about this process, about doing those sketches, sending them in, getting feedback, making changes, making last-minute changes because, somebody killed himself. Not really, though. He didn't kill himself. Here's Nick Meglin. He does look normal, doesn't he? What can we see? Wait, why does he have math up there? Do I see anything else, though? I like looking in the backgrounds. These guys are slobs. Golly, I'm one to talk. Who am I? Jeez Louise. Here's Al Feldstein and John Putnam. He is old. He's only been there for 14 years. Wonder who this is directing him, pushing him around. I can't really tell what that says. But it's neat. This is a really fun time capsule. I'm very much enjoying this. And I hope you are too. If you are enjoying it, hit like, subscribe, and share it out with somebody. Mad actually helps its victims. Some of Mad's parodies can be pretty mean. Do the movie and TV people mind? Most of them love our parodies, Feldstein said. Once we really did a job on Clint Eastwood, but he loved it. He sent us a great letter. Once we did a parody of a movie with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I think I saw that one. They liked it so much they asked us for the drawings. I hear the drawings are hanging up in their home. When we first started, the movie companies didn't like us at all. Then they saw that a Mad parody makes people aware of a movie. Some of our readers might not have heard of Dirty Harry, let's say. They read our version, then they may go see the movie. Also, they know we only do movies that are hits. A Mad parody is a way of saying that a movie is popular. So I guess the movie people think we're okay now. Part of the American scene. How did Mad get where it is today? It's a strange story, but then, why not? William Gaines' father published comic books. He was one of the first people to make lots of money with comics. When he died, his son William took over. William didn't know much about the business, but he managed to keep it alive. After a while, he met a young cartoonist, Al Feldstein. Together they started something new, horror comic books. Feldstein wrote all the stories, one a day. He had to give up art. There wasn't time to write and draw. His stories were bloody and frightening, and they sold well. The birth of Mad. Gaines also published war comic books. He hired an artist named Harvey Kurtzman, love Harvey, to work on them. But Kurtzman's real interest was humor. So in 1952, Gaines let him do a humor comic book. They called it Mad. It was mostly parodies of well-known comic books. Mad was a success. The horror comics were making lots of money. Then trouble hit. They're going to bring up another legal battle that he involved himself in. At that time, many people were upset about juvenile delinquency, young people breaking the law. Newspapers wrote about young people going bad. Some blamed horror comics. They said the comics were too violent. Reading about bloody crimes might lead young people into crime. It was crazy, Feldstein said. How could reading about a bloody corpse make a kid go out and steal a hubcap? But a lot of people believed it. It was a bad time for Gaines. Some stories wouldn't sell his horror comics. After a while, he had to stop printing them. He brought out some new comics, but they didn't do well. Soon, the company owed a lot of money. They had nothing left except Mad. By this time, Mad was a magazine, not a comic book. It made fun of all kinds of things, not just comics, and it was doing very well. Hard to stay on top. Mad became more and more successful, but Kurtzman and Gaines did not always agree on things. In 1956, Kurtzman left. Gaines thought that might be the end of Mad, but Al Feldstein became the editor, and he's been the editor ever since. Some people say, are they about to say something bad about my boy Kurtzman? Ooh, you better watch it, Feldstein. Some people say he makes more money than any other magazine editor in the country. Okay, don't worry, guys. We all work really hard here, Nick said. It's not as crazy as you'd think. Being funny is a serious business. You should see us at a story meeting, Jerry added. Sometimes we'll sit, and we won't think of one funny idea. Nick said, we're number one, and it's hard to stay on top. You have to keep thinking of new ideas. You have to be very aware of what is happening. Most adults don't realize how aware most kids are, Feldstein said. Adults talk down to kids. We try not to do that. One way Mad keeps up with the kids is through the letters they get. This is Jerry's department. He puts together the letters page at the front of each issue. We get over 500 letters a week. Some are serious, some are funny. We get letters like, I was going to write you, but I changed my mind. Or, I'm writing this letter in crayon. They won't let me have sharp objects here. Then, a lot of kids send in articles for us to print. I figure every class has a class clown. Other kids tell him he's funny, so he sends his stuff to us. Most of what we get isn't good enough to print. Once, a high school girl from Detroit sent something in. We liked it, so we paid her for it and printed it. We told her to send more stuff. She never did. I guess after one mistake, she went straight. Wisecracks and practical jokes. Members of the staff work hard, but they kid around a lot too. While we were there, this is an exchange between Nick and Jerry. Is this spelled right? Yeah, that's right. Boy, some of our writers write funny, but they spell even funnier. And later, is this the right pagination number? Pagination means how the pages are numbered. Nick and Jerry singing together. It was the pagination, I know. I don't know how that song, It Was the Fascination goes. And so it went. The staff seems to become especially crazy during Mad trips. Each year, Gaines takes the office staff and the usual gang of idiots on a trip. Before we do that, I have two more photos. Len Brenner. Something of politicians who. And then here's Norman Mingo. I really like this photograph. Norman Mingo. National treasure. I think he's passed away, though. The first trip was to Haiti. Gaines learned that there was one boy in Haiti who got mad, so he got the whole gang into several jeeps. They drove up to the boy's home. Then they gave him an order card so he could order Mad for the next year. Big deal. They didn't even like bring him stuff. They just brought him a subscription card. Once the Mad Gang was in Pisa, Italy. Gaines left an Alfred E. Newman for President sign at the top of the Tower of Pisa. Also in Italy, some workers were on strike. The Mad group watched the picket line. Then they saw something strange. At the end of the line, holding a picket sign, was Sergio Aragonés, a mad artist. In a restaurant in Puerto Rico, Gaines gave the waiter the order. It took a long time because there were 21 people at the table. The waiter wrote it all down. Then Gaines looked up at the waiter. It was Sergio Aragonés, the mad artist. The Mad people have been to Europe, Africa, and Japan. In the future, they may go to Tahiti or China. I always think what my father told me, Jerry told us. He always said, if you keep your head buried in a comic book, you'll never see anything of the world. Boy, was he wrong. We asked him, are the trips partly why you've stayed at Mad for 20 years? He looked surprised. Stay? Where else would I go? We asked, do you mean nothing else would be as interesting? No, he said very seriously. No one else would take me, not after working here all these years. Have you watched, and then this is just an introduction to Clodumbo. Clodumbo. Whoop. And that is it. Now, they go into Columbo, the TV series. And it's like the script for Columbo. And that's not the Mad Magazine script. It is just, oh my gosh, hold on. I hope we will always be together like Romeo and Juliet, sharing a pepperoni and sausage pizza. The only thing is, I want the pepperonis. Dang, Kathy. What does that mean? What does that mean, Kathy? Anyway, so I'm pretty pleased with this. I enjoyed flipping through that, and I hope you did too. If you enjoy my channel and the type of stuff that I make and do, please hit like and subscribe and share this out. I really appreciate it. And with that, toodaloo.